Okay, so for today's video, what we want to do is this blinking effect. That's the first one. Okay, the first video. So how we do this, I will need to introduce you to a new CSS rule called CSS keyframes. Okay, so it's this CSS keyframe rule. Basically, if you know about keyframes, if you learn animation, right, there is this term called keyframe. Basically, it's the frame of your animation, the key, literally keyframe. So this is the first frame, second frame, third frame, fourth frame, fifth frame, right? So these are the keyframes that you draw or that you set and the animation follows along, right? So this is the keyframe. In CSS, we can also do keyframes for simple animations. So the first animation or the first application of keyframe that I'll teach you guys to do is this blinking on air effect for the this on air element. Okay, so how we go is we just go to our root folder. Okay, this is our root folder, and we go to where we want the effect to be. So in this case, I want the keyframe to affect the about this area because it's applied to the on air span, right? So if you know, if you remember, on air span is this one. So p class on air span. So p class on air span, right, is the color red part that you want it to blink. So I will first set what we call the keyframe, which I will just say like this, keyframes with the letter S. Okay, and we need to name this animation. Okay, we need to name this animation. So it can be any name, but name it something relevant. So of course we want our keyframe to blink, right? We want this element to blink, right? So the animation is actually a blinking animation. So I'm just gonna call this blink. Okay, you can call it anything you want, but make it meaningful. So I'm just gonna call this animation blink, and I'm gonna set my starting point. So like for example, this one, this is a starting point. This is the ending point, right? So starting point, the 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 way to denote the starting point is by saying 0%. So this is the starting point at 0%. Okay, and we have the ending point at 100%. Okay, so this is the starting, this is the ending. So if let's say we want to have more keyframes, it's also possible. We can say 25%. So 25%, let's say it's this one, right? And then 50%, and then 75%. So you can actually set however many keyframes you want. Okay, but let's just keep it simple for now. Let's just have two keyframes, the first starting keyframe and the ending keyframe. Okay, so if you notice the animation that you want to do, it's actually just the blinking of showing and fading in, fading out, or opacity 1, opacity 0, opacity 1, opacity 0, right? So the first keyframe, let's just start at opacity 1. So means to say the thing is visible at the 0%. At the start, the thing is visible, but at the end, the thing that we want to animate is actually invisible. It's opacity 0. So this is actually the very simple animation that we can do for a blinking effect. It's just that you go from visible to invisible, right? So to show you what it means, let me make this first. Okay, so to show you what it means, at first our circle is opacity 1, so we can say that it's fully red, right, and 0 at the start, and it animates until here, which is 100%, and I just do this sort of semi-transparent to show that it's opacity 0. Okay, so it's actually not there lah. Okay, so it takes from 0 to 100%, from opacity 1 to opacity 0. That is our simple animation. Okay, so we have created this simple animation, these keyframes. Okay, now we need to apply it. So how do we apply it? We just go to the element that we want to select and apply the animation. So for example, we want to select this thing, right? We want to target this thing, we want it to animate. So we will go to P class on air span, okay, which is just happens to be here, P class on air span, and we can assign this the animation of blink, which we have just set up above. Okay, so whatever you put here, you link it here lah, right? It's the same because you are referring to this animation. You want this element to follow this animation. Okay, the second thing you have to do is to tell how long you want the animation to be. So how long for 0 to go to 100? If you don't put it, then you don't see anything because it's instantaneous, right? So we need to set an animation duration. So I'm just going to say here animation duration, and I'm just going to set this at 0.8 seconds. So it takes for the animation from opacity 1, 0.8 seconds to go to 100%, which is opacity 0. So I'm going to say here animation dash duration 0.8%. Alright, so by doing this, now I have told the browser that I want it to go from opacity 1, 0% to 100, opacity 0 in 0.8%. So now I want you to notice what happens when I refresh my browser. So I'm just going to click on refresh here, and I want you to pay attention to this on air span here. So when I refresh, you see that it fades out, but it comes back again, and only one time, right? So when I refresh, it fades out, but it comes back again, right? So we do see the blinking effect happening, but it is not repeating, right? It's only running one time, but we want it to run multiple times, right? Repetitively, non-stop for infinite amount of times. So to do that, we can say here, animation iteration count, and I will put here infinite. Okay, so let's test this out. When I refresh this page, you see now it is running infinite amount of times. It just keep going on and on and on and on again. Okay, but you also notice now that this on air is kind of jumpy, right? It's like it fades out slowly, but then it instantly comes back again, right? So what is happening is basically like it goes run 0.7, instantaneously start back 0.8 second, instantaneously start at 0.8 second, instant, right? So we might not want this in instant transition, which is very choppy, right? So what we can do is we can reverse the direction as well. After you complete one round of animation, I want you to reverse the direction and take another 0.8 second in reversing that direction from 100% to 0%, right? So this one, we will say animation direction alternate, right? Animation direction alternate. So what this means is it will take the animation 0.8 second to go from 0% to 100%, and it will also take 0.8 second back from 100% to 0% instead of the instantaneous choppy just now, right? So now if I were to type in here as well, animation direction, and I will put in here alternate, and I save and I refresh, and now you see that the transition is much smoother. It fades in, fades out, 0.8%, fades in, fades out, 0.8%. Right, if you want it to be faster, we can just tweak this to half a second, and you'll see that now it is flashing in a very smooth and nice way. Okay, so that is the first thing.